Because I went after the three from my hand.
Good evening, Pueblo, Colorado. It is Monday, July the 20th, 2026. The time is 5:33 p.m. And I call this work session of Pueblo City Council to order. We'll first begin with the council's agenda with city updates.
Thank you,
Mayor
Chair.
Graham, will you be?
Yeah, I'll be filling in.
Okay. The chair will
Chief of staff.
recognize Mayor Graham for looks like 5 minutes to provide us with city updates.
Thank you, Chair. Some updates from Pueblo Parks and Rec. Free day at Ray Aguilera Park and Mitchell Park Pool from 12 to 5, and free day at City Park Pool from 12 to 2:30 and 3 to 5:30, thanks to Generation Wild. Spots are limited because there is capacity limits, so get there early. Regular admission applies to Mineral Palace Park Pool. Don't miss out on Summer Jam 3-on-3 tournament at the Slab this Friday and Saturday, July 24th and 25th, middle school, high school, and adult divisions with a $50 entry per team. There's a 3-game guarantee and registration closes this Wednesday. Register online, in person, or on phone. Saturday, July 25th is George R. Williams Memorial Carousel Day at the Rides at City Park. Join us for free carousel rides from 2 to 9 on Saturday. Updates from the Pueblo Police Department. The July 9th through 15th CompStat report reflects several encouraging trends, particularly in the department's proactive enforcement activity and year-to-date reductions in major crimes. Part 1 crime is down 8% compared with the same period in 2025, including an 8% reduction in both person and property crimes. Particularly notable are decreases in auto thefts, burglaries, aggravated assaults, robberies, and sexual assaults. Despite these positive indicators, several areas require continued attention. Homicides continue to be higher than in 2025, a 67% increase. Total shooting incidents increased 19%, with 3 shootings and 1 homicide occurring during this reporting week. Theft-related offenses also remain a concern. Theft and larceny increased 5%. Thefts from vehicles increased 2% and shoplifting increased 59%. Several quality of life and public order categories also increased, including trespass, disorderly conduct, fighting or a firearm discharge, and drug or narcotics violations. Some of these increases likely reflect intensified enforcement and changes in crime reporting activities, but they warrant continued monitoring to distinguish increased criminal activities from increased police activity. Overall, the report shows meaningful progress in reducing many major crime categories while increasing proactive enforcement. The principal challenges remain the rise in homicides and overall shooting incidents, along with the persistent theft, shoplifting, trespass, and disorderly related offenses. The department will continue concentrating specialized and patrol resources on violent offenders, firearm-related crime, repeat property offended locations, generating recurring quality of life complaints. An update from Housing and Citizen Services. The City of Pueblo, through the Department of Housing and Citizen Services, is seeking 2 qualified homeowners located on Pueblo's west side to participate in this year's Neighbor Helping Neighbors program. Through this program, the department recruits volunteers to paint the homes of neighbors in need. Housing preservation is critical, especially in the City of Pueblo, where the average home age is over 55 years old. This project not only helps preserve homes, but highlights the importance of preserving our existing housing stock. Last year, 2 homes were painted, one in District 2 and another in District 4. This year, the focus is in District 1. If you or someone you know qualifies as a low-income homeowner, is in need of exterior painting, and lives within the target area, please visit www.pueblo.us/95 and click Get Help, or scan the QR code shown on the screen for additional details and all eligibility information, including income limits in the application. The Community Service Advisory Commission, CSAC, will open applications for the 2027 funding year on Friday, July 24th, 2026. The application period will remain open through August 31st, 2026. CSAC is a joint partnership between the City of Pueblo and Pueblo County, serving as the primary avenue for nonprofits to seek funding from local governments. Applications will be available on the city's website beginning this Friday. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor Grimm. Okay. Moving forward with the council's agenda, I would like to invite up Mr. Andrew Hayes with Public Works Director. And Mr. Hayes has also informed me that there is a guest with us today wishing to address the council, Mr. Derek Martinez. Mr. Martinez, would you like to come up? And then sounds like there is another guest online. Is that right, Mr. Hayes?
Yes, I'll introduce everybody
Perfect.
if you're ready for me to get started.
All right, perfect. The chair will recognize you for a 30-minute presentation is what it is on the agenda. Once you're loaded with your presentation, we'll get
So,
started.
No presentation, no slides tonight, just some talking here. First, let's start off with who's sitting next to me. Mr. Martinez is the owner of Martinez Property Holdings. He is also joined online tonight. His attorney, Ms. Horvath, is also online. So both of them are available for some questions. I presume that my presentation tonight would just go forward with our pitch here about a project involving Mr. Martinez and his properties out on Pueblo Boulevard. This is a continuation or extension of a discussion that is taken place back in 2025 related to improvements on Pueblo Boulevard between Mirror and Acero. Mr. Martinez owns the property that where the Starbucks was recently opened, where this Chipotle is currently being built, and a couple of other lots that are over there in that same vicinity. So we wanted to talk to you tonight about those public improvements as the core point of the discussion. So what we're talking about here is the traffic signal improvements primarily, and the median and curb and gutter and other related public improvements that are out there on the highway to facilitate development along Pueblo Boulevard there in that vicinity. Mr. Martinez, again, owns several parcels there on the north side of Pueblo Boulevard between Mirror and Acero. The Starbucks, as you're aware, has been open since March. They were issued their CO at that time. As a condition of the CO being issued, there was an access permit agreement also being signed between the city and Martinez Property Holdings that conveyed through the requirements that CDOT had to Mr. Martinez from CDOT through the city to Mr. Martinez. And so those particular improvements included the installation of raised curb and gutter in the center median. Also median to make Acero Avenue a right-in, right-out intersection. It also the largest and biggest burden that Mr. Martinez was facing was the requirement to install a traffic signal at the intersection of Mirror and Pueblo Boulevard. So if anybody's driven that lately, everyone can see that there is a lot of temporary traffic control. There's a lot of cones up there. There's also the temporary signal that's been installed in that vicinity. That signal is obviously going to be there until the permanent signals are installed. Mr. Martinez has been working with PURA, the Urban Rural Authority, to negotiate reimbursement for some of those public improvements via TIF dollars that are part of the improvement district that's in place there, or the urban renewal district that's in place there. That district has about 7 or so years left on it. And so there is still revenue that's being generated that could potentially be used for reimbursing some of those costs. One of the big challenges Mr. Martinez is facing is the timeline to construct these improvements. It exceeds 6 months. So the not only just to get contracted and get things started out there, but the long lead items of ordering what we call the mast arms and poles, traffic signal components in particular, are long lead items that are going to take in excess of 6 months to get on site. I think Mr. Martinez will say the same thing here, but they are certainly desiring to get their CO as soon as possible, right? They're nearing the end of construction on the Chipotle, but again, the amount of time it's going to take to get that traffic signal up is going to be much longer than the time frame it would take for, I guess, his getting the building completed and being able to open up to business there. So with that timeline of construction, there's not really a feasible pathway forward, but we've had a discussion with CDOT, in particular, trying to figure out whether CDOT would allow us to be able to potentially take on that project. And if that was the case, would they allow Mr. Martinez to get his CO earlier? And the general consensus was yes. There were some conditions to that potentially. One of those would have been that first, the city needs to take on the project, which means council needs to approve the project, it needs to approve a construction contract. And the other would be that Mr. Martinez, through Martinez Property Holdings, would make a proportional share of contribution to the project in an estimated amount of around $250,000 would be his proportional share for the cost of those improvements. The project is anticipated to cost between $2.5 and $3 million. The city would need to bid it out. So Martinez Property Holdings has already done some of that work. They've gone out and bid, so they've got bids back, but they've not been able to enter into a contract to execute that work yet. So what we're asking here is getting the temperature on council, whether we might be able to seek a funding from the half-cent sales tax fund to pay for the project up front and seek reimbursement through PIRA, and rather than have the TIF dollars that might be reimbursed go back to Martinez Property Holdings, they would come back to the city to reimburse the cost of the project. Again, that district has about 7 years left or so on it. But this would provide a mechanism for Mr. Martinez to be able to open his business up earlier and get the project in the ground faster with a methodology that CDOT would also consent to. So that is the basic structure. I'm going to let Mr. Martinez speak on the project on his side as well. Yep, please.
Good evening, Council. Thanks for taking the time to hear us out on this. It's been an ongoing process for quite a while for me in this project. We started the Starbucks well over a year ago. We had come before you guys in the past to vote on the half-cent sales tax, which didn't happen in the past, but I understand it's passed since. But anyway, right now, as Andrews mentioned, our biggest concern is that, you know, I've developed the lots. We've got Starbucks in initially, and they kind of sat closed for nearly 5 months, just pending an outcome on the signal and how to fund it and how to make it work. Luckily, we were able to get to agreement, and I was able to hire a company to bring in the temporary signal to keep things functional and safe, and that allowed us to get a C of O for Starbucks. But we're kind of facing the same thing now again with Chipotle is we need to work towards getting the permanent signal in. And it is a very high cost, you know, nothing I ever budgeted for. And right now it sounds like we may have a path forward through this half-cent sales tax if we can get it approved to offset the cost of the signal with my contribution, of course. You know, as Andrew mentioned, $250,000. But most importantly is that, you know, now Chipotle is about finished being built, and they're going to be asking for a C of O in the next 30 days-ish. And the way things stand, we really don't have a path forward to grant that. And I think the last thing anybody wants is, of course, I don't want them to sit there closed down, waiting on a C of O or a path forward. Doesn't look good for me, doesn't look good for the city. It carries extreme penalties for me as a developer. I cannot allow them to open. Just doesn't look good on the city. They have an empty building sitting there for months on end. So, you know, it is, you know, our hopes that we can get a vote to have a consideration to get this funding in place so that we can get with CDOT and find a path forward, and most importantly, get the C of O, if not a full C of O, at least a temporary C of O in the next 30 days or so would be my request, so that they can get open while we button up the details on what we're doing. Any questions? I don't.
I do have just a couple quick closing points here, but part of the request being a half-cent sales tax request, there's an eligibility question, right? We believe that this project falls under the economic catalyst criteria. So as you'll recall, that area is kind of a core commercial development area. So the properties on the south side of Pueblo Boulevard, in order for them to develop, they would have to do many of the same things, including this development, this signal. This is not just something that benefits Mr. Martinez's property only. This is absolutely something that has broad public benefit. There's also traffic safety issues there at Mirror and Pueblo Boulevard. There have been fatalities at that intersection in the last, I think 5 or 6 years, right on that cusp of 5 years. But the volume of traffic has increased there. The number of crashes has increased. We've seen, again, those 2 fatalities, but we've had a number of serious property or serious injuries as well there. We don't expect to see that go down as more traffic comes in, as more people are attracted to the businesses there. So these are incredibly important safety improvements as well. But from an economic development standpoint, it certainly meets the economic catalyst criteria from a, being a commercial site. Again, all of these improvements are going to serve both the north and south side of Pueblo Boulevard. So unless you have anything further, or Ms. Horvath, if anybody has any other items you'd like to say, we'll conclude there. And
I have something.
thank you.
All right, thank you. I will now allow time for counselors to field questions. I believe Counselor Latino had his light first, so I'll begin with him. Counselor, you have about 1 to 2 minutes, and then I'll move over to my right with Counselor Dante and then Counselor Gomez. So Counselor Latino, please.
Mr. Hayes, what seems to be the problem in terms of this project being held up? Because I go up that way all the time. I to shop, to go to various restaurants up there. I've been in the Starbucks again. I'm trying to figure out what's holding this up. What is holding it up exactly? What exactly is holding up the bureaucracy that exists in government, or what?
No. So right this minute, it's just money. So Mr. Martinez has an obligation under his access permit agreements to install those improvements. They are significant, though. They're very large. It's a $3 million or $2.5 million improvement that's being placed on one business. We're having him work with Pura and try to negotiate a reimbursement agreement that might allow him to be reimbursed for a portion of that, so that public burden is not just his alone. But the burden of installing a major traffic signal project on a state highway like this, on a 6-lane highway, is significant.
Well,
And so this is a mechanism which we're recommending to council for being able to help facilitate that, take on some of that public burden back.
So you say that road's part of the state highway system?
Pueblo Boulevard is State Highway 45. It is.
So they're doing the same thing. They're doing the same things they do all over the city, as they've done on City Center Drive. You and I've had that conversation, and we need to start holding them accountable for what it is that they're not doing and they're supposed to be doing. And I don't put that all on you. I put that on the city as well.
So we have very regular conversations with CDOT about requirements for maintaining existing roads. This is a little bit different in the sense that they are also, they control requirements from an operational safety perspective that might be needed when a new development occurs. So again, whether a new signal is required or just a new turn lanes, some striping changes, signal adjustments, those kinds of things are all potential mitigations that CDOT might impose on a developer associated with any project. We just had a meeting today with another developer where there's a significant set of burdens they're going to face, not because of bureaucracy, but because of safety and operational considerations. What we want to try to do is help facilitate developers that are facing those challenges. And so when the city can step in and offer some assistance to help spread that public burden, this is a mechanism in which we can do that.
It's a situation. It's the anaconda sana panana with the double riddle rattle. In other words, they're giving us conversation, but they're not doing anything, like they haven't done on City Center Drive. And in that area where we have trees planted, an irrigation system that's a frickin' disaster in my district. And now they're doing the same thing up on the south side. So how do we let them know that how do we let them know that the BS is got to come to an end?
I would say that the local region staff certainly understands our position. They also don't have the resources to put toward this project. And so that's also one of the limitations that they face.
So they start something and they don't have the money to finish it. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think CDOT started the project, right? I mean, these are requirements that are stemming from development. So when developers come and they bring traffic or other impacts, those have to be mitigated. In the case of on a state highway system, CDOT doesn't have a pot of money that they have ready for assisting developers. We do have that through tools through PIRA or tools through our HAVCENT fund where it's appropriate. But those are opportunities that we have to be able to step in and help spread that public burden. One of the big challenges for any development around the city is the cost of public improvements. Many places people go, we have developers from out of town, like Derek, who come in and are used to being in places where public infrastructure is already in. And it's minor things they need, just a turn lane or some striping. In this case, it's a major improvement that's also not only going to benefit his property, but others as well. Based on that, it's not inappropriate for the city to offer some kind of assistance or to have him work with PURA to try to help spread those costs. But for him to bear this all on his own is a significant ask.
And there's no
especially
question about it.
compared to his project.
There's no question about it, that's significant.
Counselor Latino, about 30 more seconds. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry you're having to go through this.
The chair will recognize Counselor Dante. Counselor Dante, I'll give you about 2 minutes to build your question and for you all to respond.
Actually, I have two questions. Can we go over the finances again? So the half-cent sales tax is going to pay the $2.5 million.
Yes, ma'am. That would be the
And then,
proposal.
then Pure is gonna reimburse the
Absence sales
half-cent
tax.
sales tax.
Yes,
And then TIF is gonna go where?
The TIF is collected by PURA. That's the money that
By
would be
PURA.
coming in to be able to make these reimbursements back.
Okay,
to the
that's what I
city.
thought. Okay, my second question is, as we develop farther and farther down Pueblo Boulevard, are we gonna come across these same problems?
So there are several developments going on right now. When you say down, I'm assuming toward I-25 from where the Starbucks currently is. Let's just say that for now, and we can talk about the other end later. But on this east-west section of Pueblo Boulevard, there's a number of development projects going on. Just to would that be the east of Mr. Martinez's properties? There's another developer over there also doing similar things. He's also got an obligation to put in a bunch of median and curb and gutter and other things. He did not get scrapped with the signal, however. The signal improvement that is so expensive is adjacent to Mr. Martinez's property, and that's why it's being tied to him. But spreading that cost, there's no other mechanism to do that. That's where this ask is coming from, is finding a way to help spread that public burden across all affected property owners or across this urban renewal district from which all the property owners affected are already
Right.
paying into.
So as we continue developing and there's another light that has to be put in, we're gonna go through this again.
So we shouldn't, because there are only 3 traffic signals that are going to be installed on Pueblo Boulevard in that corridor. One is at Lake and it's already existing. One is at Prairie and that's already existing. The one that's missing is here at Mirror. So this should be the last one on
Okay.
CDOT's current plan through their current planning horizon of the next 25 years.
Okay,
So we should not see a signal like this. There will be smaller things like turn lanes and access and driveways and those kinds of things, but not major significant improvements like this one.
okay, thank you.
Counselor Gomez, I will recognize you for 2 minutes if you want to send your question and get a response.
I may need more than 2 minutes. One of the things is, we
you.
keep on finding angles or creative ways to tap into the half-cent sales tax money, which is clearly, this is not a primary job, has nothing to do with it. We need to stop doing that. Now we have Pure getting involved. There's a conflict there. The mayor sits on that board. She's also a voting member, I believe. There's way too many things going on here. And I can appreciate the creativity. I, more than anybody else, would love to see this come forward, but you got to go through the right doors. This is not the door to go through. And what you're doing here is, I don't care if it's, you want to call it the half-cent sales tax, interest money you're going to use, the core money, whatever it is. We have been given strict instructions not to do this, and you keep on banging on that door. So I'm not in favor of it. I wish I was, but I just can't see us doing this.
Thank you, Counselor. The chair will recognize Counselor Boston. Counselor Boston, I'll give you 2 minutes to pose your questions and for your responses.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to, start off by saying this is basically the patient zero as to why we amended the half-cent sales tax to allow 15% of the funds to be used for economic catalysts, economic leakage and placemaking projects. It's really unfortunate all the hardship you've had to go through to try to get these businesses opened up. And I think this was the reason we made the amendments. I hope this is something that we can do with this fund. It brings more business, it brings more development to this community. It's going to get reimbursed by my understanding through PURA because this is going to generate TIF in the district. So over 7 years, that money will come right back into the half-cent sales tax fund and we'll have several more businesses opening up in this corridor and it'll be open for future development past that. So I really like all of that. It's an investment in the future. So I appreciate you being patient, Mr. Martinez, and I wish there was a better mechanism in place from CDOT to help spread these costs to not slap it right on one developer like this, because it's really unfortunate that you drew the short straw. But for future options, you talked about tools, this being a potential tool. What do other communities do? Is there some sort of impact fee or something that people pay into that we can look into in the future so that developers have a fund to maybe pull from that is not potentially the half-cent sales tax or something that we can do?
Sure. So the impact fees that you mentioned are a tool that other communities do use. Pueblo does not have impact fees related to development. But those are potential options. That's something that council could consider and adopt. The advantage of having that is it provides a pool of funds for things like this, for infrastructure improvements necessary to facilitate development. We do have this built into the half-cent sales tax fund. It does allow for infrastructure funding for eligible projects. I understand Councilor Gomez's concerns, but the Economic Catalyst project is one of the eligible types of projects that is in the criteria ordinance as has been updated. It does have a cap, so there's a sort of limitation on that, but there are those tools available. So impact fees, we've talked here about half-cent sales tax, and here in Pueblo, one of the most powerful tools that we've got is the Urban Renewal District. And in this particular case, it's already an existing district that is drawing TIF. And so those TIF dollars can be used to help offset costs of public improvements. It helps us spread those costs of public improvement public improvements for development as development occurs. So those are all three big tools that we've seen used in different communities here in Colorado.
I just have one more question. What's the estimated opening date for Chipotle if this were to go through?
Right now, understand that we've got about 1 more week for us to finalize the project. It's just about done. I think they mentioned that they would be coming before the city if everything was the way they wanted it to apply for their C of O within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And hopes of opening within probably 30 to 45 days was, if all went as planned.
I'm
So
trying to be their first customer. So
yeah, there you go. Sounds good. It would be great. So yeah, that's the hopes that we can get that done and not leave them dark like Starbucks was.
I have my sleeping bag ready.
What's that?
I have my sleeping bag ready. I'm gonna try to be the first person.
All right.
Just to that point, if council approves this, I understand Mr. Martinez's point that as soon as possible is best, right? There are obviously some time things that need to happen. We would need to bring an ordinance forward to council to budget and appropriate the funds and obviously to award the contract once this is bid out. Contract drawings, the package is basically prepared already, so it would be a relatively straightforward procurement. I say that, at least from an administrative standpoint, getting it prepared, getting that out would be fairly straightforward. But ultimately would be bringing an action back to city council for approval, and then separate from, but parallel to this, we would also be working with PURA to get a reimbursement agreement in place between the city and PURA for the reimbursement of these funds as well. So a few things that need to happen. I think realistically, we're in September, but in that timeframe, that's probable that it could happen if council was to give us direction to move forward this way.
Thank you.
The chair will recognize Councilor Hernandez. Councilor Hernandez, I'll give 1 to 2 minutes for you to pose your question and for a response.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to go over the math again one more time, the $2.5 to $3 billion, it's a contract to install the light, correct?
For light and the other public improvements. This
So
is
the other public improvements are,
So the raised concrete median down
Okay.
the center. So right now on Polo Boulevard, you have painted striping. That's the center
Right.
median. So they would actually put in a center median that is not
much like they're doing all the way down south.
correct. Correct. And then also right in, right out improvements at Acero,
Acero.
Acero Avenue as well.
So if I understand the math correctly, all this money is going to be paid back or a portion of it's going to be paid back?
So it depends on what Pura agrees to with the city. They are signaling that they're open to entering into an agreement here. It's subject to the availability of funds. But there is funding coming in every year on this TIF district. It does have a clock, and so it does expire, I think in 7 years. But the amount of TIF that's coming in there should be sufficient to be able to make the payback to the city at that point.
When will we have that clarification?
So if you're giving us direction tonight, we're gonna start working on those details there and figure out what the agreement will look like with Pura. And obviously, all those pieces are coming back before you for approval and discussion. I think getting some advance notice for you on Pura's take on their agreement will be an important part before we bring everything back for final consideration. So I can commit to make sure we have something from them on what direction they're headed. But
Any
at this
further-
moment, it's just everyone's signaling the same direction. They were going to enter a reimbursement agreement with Martinez Property Holdings previously.
Okay.
So rather than push those funds back to him for reimbursement, it would just come to the city.
Okay, any solid timeframes on when that signal will be completed?
Not exactly. It would be based on our contract if we do this.
Okay.
Again, we face the same lead time for ordering those mast arms and poles.
Right.
That temporary signal would need to remain in place.
Otherwise, the 2.5 to 3 million is on Mr. Martinez,
Correct. And
including
other-
the signal in the lane.
one of the other pieces here is not only is the signal his burden, but CDOT is unwilling to forego the access permit, or I guess forego the CO.
Correct.
Unless the city picks this up and takes it on as a public project. That's one of the ways that we have to help expedite this process and get this business open.
So we'd be back in the same boat we were when Starbucks opened, where it's set because we didn't have an agreement on a light.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Want to say something? Go ahead.
So just to kind of clarify, CDOT has, I mean, originally they made me do a traffic study, an impact study, cost me approximately $20,000 to get an official impact study from an official engineer. Studies 2 inches thick with a lot of detailed data. They yielded the fact that Starbucks, the impact of Starbucks was probably going to be, borderline threshold of requiring the signal to begin with. But now with Chipotle, I think we've crossed that boundary, so it's pretty well required. They also, did say that my pro rata share of the impact that I caused or Starbucks causes or the development that I'm putting in causes probably relative to about 2 to 3%. I mean, it wasn't a lot. So when you consider as a whole, how many households, use that light, how much traffic uses the light on Pueblo Boulevard, Starbucks impact was under 10%, arguably under 5%. But what I cannot seem to understand, like to this day, I'm just at the mercy of the city, CDOT, kind of in between trying to, see my developments through, get my tenants open and, play ball, to just meet the expectations and the needs that I need to, but without having to spend $2 to $3 million. I'm glad to contribute my pro rata share. And from there, that's kind of where we're trying to come up with this agreement. We've been doing it for well over a year now. So anyway, that's.
Thank you. Mr. Hayes, is there an application on file with Advanced Pueblo for this project? Because I did not see it on the most recent
Not yet.
list.
That's correct. Not yet. This is new, and this came up in the last few weeks here as an alternative way for helping to deliver Mr. Martinez's project. So this is, again, pending council's direction, we would be formalizing that ask, working with Pura again on the parallel agreement for the reimbursement and working on bidding this out so we have firm prices. We know what exactly we'd be asking for before we come back to council.
So I just want to Advanced Pueblo is willing to shift in these circumstances when things need to get done like this that are pretty urgent and need to happen now, because it was my understanding that there had to be for these kinds of things, that there had to be an application before it even came to the work session? Because we've had this happen before.
I think I can answer that question. Counselor Reyes Gomez, I'm not sure if you were a councilwoman at the time, but Mr. Martinez and team has already been to city council once before talking about his before Starbucks a year ago, 2 years ago, where he's already made a presentation to city council. So we didn't feel that this needed to be done in an executive session because he's already given city council all of that information in a public meeting.
Okay, so it's kind of like a grandfathered in process at this point, somewhat.
Well, the previous city council, I guess, had already seen this and it's already been well talked about in the public. So we just wanted to give you an overview now that it's come full circle.
Okay. How many jobs is the Chipotle? So first of all, let me ask this question because I'm your neighbor. I live right on the corner of Muir. So I see the Starbucks and how much activity it gets, but I do agree, like that light does, like, it's very heavy. It stops a lot of traffic. You know, there's a lot of traffic headed in and out of there. So what is and maybe I just didn't understand your response, but why is there, why does the permanent light have to happen now versus the light that's there keeping the Starbucks open?
So, I'll answer to the best I know
Is there like a time frame that's,
Well,
you have to move that out of
Yeah.
there?
Well, I had to incur the cost of that light. It's costed me over $20,000 a month just to keep it functional. It's an extreme cost burden on me, but I've agreed to do it just for the sake of allowing Starbucks to open, get their C of O, and not sit there empty. So I'm covering that burden, but you know, CDOT has an urgency, and I think everybody's got an urgency to get the permanent traffic signal put in. But again, it is lead times to order the equipment. It's extreme costs that I'm not capable of doing at this point. I'm just trying to, obviously.
And just to speak on that piece too, CDOT, the reason for CDOT pushing this now is that the level of service was what we refer to at an intersection, right? And how well those intersections are set up and designed to handle the traffic volumes that come through them. The level of service was already poor at that intersection. And so it was already essentially failing. So adding one more car, adding one more business to the mix just further exacerbates that problem. So CDOT's position has been, as they've communicated to me, that this signal is needed now. They are again, when there's construction going on and they're seeing the forward progress of all this moving in, they're willing to allow us to pursue this project and get it going in the ground. But they were going to require that the signal be completely installed and done before Chipotle comes in otherwise.
And how long will it take for what's your estimated time frame for the project to get done?
Yep, I believe we're probably talking 6 to 9 months total to complete and wrap up the project.
6 to 9
Again, a
months.
lot of that, most of it is time spent waiting for the signal components and mast arms to come in. But there's other concrete work that can come in and be installed in the meantime as well.
Okay, so meanwhile, you can't open the Chipotle and you're paying 25,000, how much per month for the Starbucks?
Yeah, over 20,000, probably 25,000 a month, I would estimate, for the traffic control, which is kind of ongoing. So that has to go on for another 6 months or 9 months. It's just, we're trying to get resolved so that we could, not just rent a signal ongoing and keep these businesses open meanwhile.
Counselor Gomez, I'll give you about 2 minutes to stay on our agenda to do your question and respond, please, and then we'll have to move forward.
Well, I don't like being held to 2 minutes, but how do you explain that you're saying that Pura is signaling to you that they'll help with the reimbursement of $2.5 to $3 million? What does that mean? How do I take that as somebody who's supposed to be safeguarding taxpayer money? I mean, this seems like another sleight of hand. Can't we just do this straight? I mean, I'm confused with all the creativity you've thrown in this and all the curveballs. Explain Do you have the money to take care of any of these projects? Or are you looking for the city to come in and hopefully wait for reimbursement? Is that the plan?
Well, the fact is that right now I do not have the money to take on this burden. $2 million I've already spent, upwards of $4 million between building these buildings, acquiring this land, bringing, these businesses to your city. So I don't have it. And so I was attempting to borrow it, but a bank
You're
won't
gonna have to
secure a loan.
verify that to us
Yeah.
because, the things that we're talking about again. I
Absolutely.
sit on a board, PDF. We've been waiting for reimbursements for over 3 years for $1.5 million from the city. We're not seeing it with all kinds of excuses on why they're not gonna pay it back. So when you bring up reimbursements and the validity and the word of this executive branch, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I wish we could say, or I wish I could say yes, but I just can't, I don't see it.
No,
Sorry.
I get it. I mean, I've had to take on debt to obviously do what I've done, build the buildings and do that. I mean, I've got bank loans, but there's no way to obtain debt on a public signal. There's no bank that would take that as collateral.
Thank you.
All right.
Counselor Hernandez, I'll allow you to pose your question for one more minute, and then we need to move forward. Thank
So
you.
Andrew, real quick with regards to the ball fields that are there. Why,
At the
what,
park.
yeah, the football park, whatever, it's soccer, whatever, everything park. Why was there a study done at that time as far as the impact that traffic would have? Because
Generated by the
as a grandparent, I'm in that park every fall. And that, I think the street between Mirror and Acero off of parallel to the boulevard is a private street.
It is. It's part of the development there that supports all of those businesses on that street.
And the parking there, there's no parking for all of the people who visit that park. So why is does the city not have more responsibility for this traffic signal?
Sure. I'm not suggesting that the city doesn't have any responsibility at all. What I'm saying is that.
I'm not suggesting you are either.
But one of the unfortunate things for developers, right? When they come to a city that does not have the infrastructure in place and it requires them to put it in, somebody still has to front that cost. And there aren't a lot of tools out there to be able to spread those costs where it's beyond their own proportion, right? If Mr. Martinez's proportional share of that traffic signal is about 250,000 and he's being told you have to install that signal, how does he get made whole on the other portion? And
Right.
the mechanism we've been talking about there is through PIRA in this particular case. It just happens to be in an urban renewal district. And so this structure may work well here. We don't have urban renewal districts everywhere and not every developer establishes one. So sometimes you're limited to other types of tools that might be in place. Every site's unique, every site's different. This one is a challenge because it is on a state highway, high traffic volumes, high speeds, 6 lanes of traffic, and you've got a traffic signal that has to be installed. It's among one of the most expensive single projects a developer would have to take on usually to support their development. With respect to the park particularly, it's a separate development, right? There's a park master plan over there, but there is parking in that park. There's a whole bunch of other undeveloped area in that park here as well that would likely have additional parking at the time when it gets developed in compliance with the rest of the park master plan as well. So we definitely get it on Gretna and trying to think of the street name back there, but all those streets back there where everybody's parked on the street during football and soccer season, it gets very busy back there.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, what guidance would the council like to provide in this? Would we like to move forward? Are there any recommendations? Well, you want to start with you, Councilor Hernandez? Go.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
You're a yes?
Thank you,
Andrew, you
Council.
want to move forward with working to get it moved forward?
We appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving forward with the council's agenda, I would like to recognize Mayor Graham, who will speak to us now about these proposed ballot measures. Mayor Graham, once you're loaded on your presentation, we'll recognize you for 30 minutes.
Great. Just bringing it up now. You all should have a copy in front of you. So over the last several months, I've been out in the community doing budget town hall. Some of you have attended some of the town halls to hear from the citizens of the community on what they are expecting the mayor and the city council to do with their tax dollars, what programs they want to see, what capital projects they want paid for, and what that looks like. And so tonight I am here to propose 4 different ballot measures, which would equal a 1% increase in overall sales tax to the city, would move our general sales tax to 4%. That would go into the general fund. 1 total percent broken up into 0.25 total percentages on 4 different ballot measures with 4 different earmarked funds. And we're going to go through those funds based off of the 2024 numbers. Each ballot measure would generate about $5.7 million to the general fund, which would then be earmarked into each allocated fund. So the first proposal, and how I came up with these proposals is obviously hearing from the community, hearing from city council on things that you want to see funded, and then overall looking at our capital projects in the city and the high cost projects and how we've been able to pay for those capital needs over the last several years, how we plan to pay for them moving forward. So the first 0.25 percentage would be dedicated to fire and technology. Examples of that could be technology improvements throughout the city that city council present or passes through operations of the IT department, subscriptions, or capital projects. This year, we didn't have any IT capital projects, but last year we did approve $1 million. Some of those types of capital projects that go on within the city could be our muni court conversion to Encode 10. So that's something that we had to do that was pretty costly. Our 2-factor authentication system change, OpenGov, and our different assets that we have, and providing updates, our municipal court streaming that we're now required to do by law. That was a cost that was incurred to the city through an unfunded mandate. Another example is fiber repair work that was just done on Goat Hill and Joplin. It was cut by some kind of a sharp blade and ripped out of the ground. And so the city had to go out and repair a ton of fiber in that area. So overall technology, fiber improvements to the city would qualify. The larger need is through our fire department. I know we just approved 3 new fire stations, but we have many stations that are still outdated. So city council approves $200,000 a year in capital investment through our fire stations that aren't new. So fire station upgrades, fire apparatus equipment. So equipment that has to go on our fleet, our fire fleet, aside from our 2 new fire trucks, is significantly outdated. We have many fire pumpers that are hitting the 30-year mark that we're going to have to essentially take out of service. A fire pumper costs the city a little over $1 million. And not only is the cost, but the time frame in order to get those trucks. So if we were to order them through this year's budget process, we probably wouldn't even see those trucks till end of next year or the year after. So we really need to have a planned approach when we are ordering new fire trucks for our fleet. Our fire EKG monitors, city council over the last couple of years has approved a couple $100,000 for new EKG monitors. For our firemen, we only buy the amount that's budgeted every single year, and then we'll buy a new tranche for the next year. So that is something that could qualify. Repaving all of the fire stations in the city, which need to be done. And where I took these specific examples were from over the last 5 years, directors who had sent capital requests to be funded. these are coming straight from your directors on projects that they believe need to be funded through the city. The second proposal, we hear a lot about roads and infrastructure within our community. You know that in 2021, the city council put a moratorium on the street utility fee that was collected that generated about $2.5 million a year to help pave roads. Since then, we've just been using our capital outlay plan in order to pave roads. We paved about $10 million a road through 2022 through 2025. Essentially, that money has run out, so we don't have a dedicated revenue source specifically for roads and infrastructure. So again, an increase in mill and overlay on public roads. Bridge infrastructure is another huge ask. The Union Bridge needs to be replaced. It is going to be a large capital investment for the city. Even having a grant, we don't have grant dollars to match those federal grants in order to get money from the state or the federal government. Curb and gutter, street rehab equipment, traffic signal improvements, pavement for sidewalks and ADA ramp, and new roadways for future development. And that's something that we've heard from our developers coming in and not paying those impact fees and not having a dedicated source of funds to be able to dip into to help with some of these infrastructure costs. The third 0.25% would be a fund strictly dedicated to non-departmental and nonprofit funding. The list on the right are all of the outside agencies that the city funds through a contractual agreement. So these are operations, contracts, city-owned facilities that we have funded throughout the years. CSAC allocation you'll see under there. So all of these are funded every single year through the city's, not through the city's general fund. Our expenses for 2026, you can see, are a little bit over $5.6 million. If this ballot measure was to pass and city council wanted to, we could also increase CSAC funding so other nonprofits could be able to apply for these funds through the city. Again, these are driven off of feedback that I've received by being out into the community, talking to people, questions about why City of Pueblo is no longer funding nonprofits who don't have a contractual agreement with the city. And it's the reality is we don't have the funding to do so. If we had a source of revenue that was dedicated specifically to nonprofits and non-departmental fundings, that would free up additional funds to the city. The last ballot question would be to fund our parks program. We heard a lot of conversation this year when I decided not to fund the tennis program, the part-time employees who run the tennis program at the city. So this would be a very vast ballot measure that could fund many different things. Obviously, the city ran pools, all of our city rec programs, including the tennis program, youth and adult sports programs that we run, city park rides, our 81 parks that we maintain, parks equipment and playground equipment, parks irrigation renovations, citywide tree planting, our athletic facility lighting improvements. We've done some of the fields in the city, but there is a plethora of fields that haven't been done. Dredging of the lakes, a park construction in Eagle Ridge that's been under works that we continue to apply for grants, and then Waterworks Parks amenities. I heard a lot about Waterworks Parks and when is the city going to fund a road? When are we going to fund bathrooms and shelter areas for people to change who are down riding the waves and what have you, because an area of that does belong to the city of Pueblo. So tonight, you received these ballot measures from me some time ago to review, but I wanted to quickly go over and see if you had any questions or additional direction, or if you had any additional feedback to give as far as ballot measures. So tonight's
They own the ice rink. What's it no longer? Do we own the ice rinks?
We don't what?
The ice rink?
Yep.
Why is it on?
Those are, what do you mean?
If they won the, oh, well, their contract.
We do. Through a contract, so we have we have a 5-year agreement with the Pueblo Bulls, who are now the Pueblo Chili Peppers. The contract was for $500,000 to be paid out over the first 3 years. And then they are to start that's what the ice cream for this year, so on a contractual number. They're 10. What they're working on is they hire. So Sursa. Contract is probably slightly. Still. They end up hiring.
You don't take 3 all the time.
So our insurance company hired them to go in and help. Tell the story about.
Oh, we're back offline.
Speak. Anytime somebody gets up, you don't have to take a break.
Let's see, what time is it?
No.
All right, Mayor Graham, when you're ready, please continue.
Okay, so on this last slide, you can just see the ballot measure total timeline. But before we wanted to put this before city council, we wanted to have this work session and get feedback for city council on if you have any changes, what you think, what you don't think. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mayor Graham. Counselor Dante, you have any questions?
I did back up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Counselor Dante has a question. Does anybody else? So while Counselor Dante's reconsidering her question, I did have a question. I read through these. So these, each of these ballot measures, as I read them, will each have their own fund. So none of this money comes as of January 1, should have passed, will have its own account that's just earmarked. None of this tax money for these things goes to the general fund.
That is correct. So it will go to the general fund, but it will have a specific earmarked purpose.
So it will go to the general fund, but it'll be earmarked. So
It's a-
how would that work if we approve the budget in November? Then is that just extra monies that just cover those things for those particular departments? How would logistically that be?
So if it was to, I'll let Danny answer that.
Council. So yes, these would be their own separate and distinct funds and not be commingled with the general fund. An example is our PST tax is in its own separate fund, never gets commingled with the general fund dollars and can only be used for those specific purposes.
I remember my question.
About the public safety sales tax.
Okay,
I remember my question.
okay. I will recognize Counselor Dante.
Sorry, my mind went blank a few minutes ago. The zoo is having their own tax. So how does that relate to the nonprofit contractual tax?
Can you go back, Tammy, to that slide? I think my thing died. That one. So the zoo's tax, I think what you'll see, because it was signature driven, will be on the agenda for first reading on the 27th. Their portion is 0.167, which we think for 5 years, which we think will generate about $3 million. That money is specifically earmarked for the zoo. So what would happen if these both passed, that the zoo line item would be taken out of your contractual non-departmental fund, and it would be funded through the zoo's ballot measure, whatever that fund ends up being called.
Okay, and is the library having their own tax as well, or do you know?
We haven't seen any, the library.
I haven't heard for sure if they are, but I did speak with the county today and heard that they put in to do a thing
Tax.
with the county as well, so.
Okay, thank you.
Tara recognizes Counselor Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mhm.
With regards to the fire city technology, of the items listed, the 6 items listed, what is currently in the budget?
So these are continuous, as I said, technology improvements. This year for 2026, there was no capital line item dedicated. In 2025, it was $1 million. So it's really a fluid kind of request when it comes to IT. For fire apparatus equipment is an ongoing expense dedicated through the capital. Fire station upgrades are also at $200,000 a year through the capital. And fire EKG monitors are through the capital. The fire pumper and the repaving are requests that we have received in the capital. So you won't see it in 2026's budget, but if you went back and looked through 2021, 22, 23, 24 of any of the requests that were unfunded, not funded in the capital line items, you'll find several different projects that correlate to fire.
Okay, same question for roads and infrastructure.
So the overall road budget has been different every year. Before the revenue for roads ballot measure passed, we were receiving the 2.5 million a year. After roads for revenue passed, the previous administration dedicated $10 million a year in funds, which has paid several different roads. So there aren't specific roads that are slated, that are duplications of what's in front of you. These are just overall items that could be paid with this money. There is no revenue source. What we did for 2026's budget is we went through previous road allocation projects, capital projects that the remaining funds were not spent, even though projects were completed. We combined that to one account, and that's how we have been able to pave roads for 2026.
Okay. On the last one, or I'm sorry, on the last one, the Parks and Pools programs.
Yep.
What is the current cost for these items as listed? Sorry.
That I might have to get back to you
Okay.
for a specific cost. I know when we presented the 4 city pools at the retreat, it was a loss of $500,000 to run the pools to the city a year.
So for this one specifically, it seems more like it's going to augment what you're already using, correct?
It's going to what?
Augment, it's going to help.
It's gonna allow these programs to continue,
Right.
right? Cause as
Because
we,
it's not 5.7 million that you're spending on this. Obviously it's more than that for Parks and Recreation.
it's much more.
So this
And
is-
Parks and Rec is really employee driven, right? So these aren't, it would be go to pay wages for those employees to then run the programs. Unlike the other ballot measures, which would be very capital heavy, these are people that we're talking about.
How do you? Because it's a supplemental basically for the program, how do you not commingle the funds?
So in example that I'd
Police.
like to refer back to is our police safety tax. So we have a dedicated set number of officers who are paid specifically from that fund. We would set that up exactly the same with the ballot measure proposed here. So those specific part-time wages or full-time would be identified and separately allocated in the budget process.
Okay, so. When I do the math, 5.7 over the quarter for 4 is $22.8 million. That's a rather sizable amount to the general fund. Not to the general fund, but
In lieu of the general
yeah,
fund.
so. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Mhm.
I'm wondering how. I'm wondering how constituents are going to, because these are the questions that I'm getting from my constituents. What does $22.8 million, and that's really the low end, because it could be as high as 26 million, right? If it's dependent on tax revenue. What is the overall idea or plan for removing? It's not entirely 22 million that you're removing from the budget, because some of this stuff isn't funded. But what's the overall fund for what's left into the budget that's going to be replaced by this supplemental?
Sure. Well, year after year, at least the last 26 and 27 projected, we are running at a $10.3 million deficit. So although $22 million sounds like a lot of money, when half of that is already being spent year after year just to pay the city's overhead,
Right.
it's going to free up some of those funds. But I think what's important to have these dedicated revenue sources is these are specific topics that community members have continued to say, we want funded no matter what, right?
Right.
And so that's what we are trying to give the taxpayers is a dedicated revenue fund for pools, programs, roads, infrastructure, the things that you take the calls about, the things that I take the calls about, instead of having a 1% overall general tax that goes to the general fund that then isn't spread all over the place.
So I'm looking 2 years down the road when we, because of this, if this passes and we know, when we have this supplemental to the budget of 22 to 26 million dollars, when we don't have a deficit anymore, what can the citizens of Pueblo anticipate as far as services delivered to them with all of these extra dollars?
Sure. So in order for the city to not have a deficit, if some kind of ballot measure does not pass in 2027's budget, that we are projecting a $10 million for 2027, which leaves the general fund with about $1 million left. So in order for city council to have a balanced budget in November of 2027 going into 2028, I will need to lay off about 90 employees for the city of Pueblo in order to present you a balanced budget, which will be significant cuts to services since we are mainly service driven. So that would be the comment that I would carry back to the constituents is these ballot measures are a creative way to keep services as they are, but also to increase capital. Maybe expand services into the community from 27 forward, because if not, we are going to have to cut part-time employees. We are going to have to reduce staff overall. So these ballot measures don't solve the issue completely, but they're dedicated revenue sources to what people have said that they want their money spent coming into the city.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The chair will recognize President Alep, and then we'll move over
Ah,
to Councilor
Thank you,
Latino.
Madam Chair. Thank you for the report. That's, it's very interesting. I guess for me personally, is that this is confusing. And it seems to me in the first three ballot measures, there's two questions being asked. If you take the first one, it's a tax for fire and city technology. But in the ballot language, it's not separated out. How much goes to fire? How much goes to city technology? Is it just going to be a fight between fire and city technology to see who gets what? I think that's a problem.
Well, it wouldn't necessarily be going to people, it's to projects. So it'd be like capital outlay and what the needs are. So as I said, that there are 4 pumpers that are about ready to hit into life, and we need to figure out what we're gonna do. If it was this year, we'd have to be buying those pumpers with this $5.5 million, because that is what meets the need for this year.
Well, it makes sense to me. I mean, I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying, but it would make sense to me, then you have a fire tax. I don't understand why it's fire and infrastructure.
Sure.
It's just a point. When you look at the second one, it's infrastructure and roads.
Yeah.
Well, which is it? Infrastructure or roads?
Well,
Infrastructure can be sewers, it could
It's-
be,
it's both. So it wouldn't be sewer, right? Because those are enterprise funds that have their dedicated fees.
Right.
But when I talk infrastructure, I'm not just gonna say roads, when we are also talking about bridges or curb and gutter or ADA ramps. It's the infrastructure associated with putting the roads together.
and then on the third one, it's presented in the exact same way. The sales and use tax rate for nonprofit and non-departmental.
Mhm.
So again, what is it for? Is it for non-departmental? Is it?
So
for
all of
nonprofit?
our non-departmentals are nonprofits. So we have both of the words in, but it would be dedicated revenues for the non-departmentals who are also nonprofits within the city. And if there was additional funds or city council wanted to allocate additional funds through CSAC, that would be what I suggest to do.
So I would just suggest that spelled out in the ballot language, so
Okay.
people understand where the money's going. It's very hard to pass a ballot initiative when it comes to taxes anyway. But I've heard from other cities that ballot measures for tax increases tend to be more palatable to the community when they're specific about we want $5.6 million a year to upgrade fire stations, fire trucks, equipment, so on and so forth. We need $5.6 million a year to continue to pave roads, build gutters, do ADA ramps, blah, blah, and it's spelled out.
Harley, is that how we would list those? Or,
So you could, going off of what President Aliff said, you can list them individually. When you do that, the concern is that now you're tying those specifically into just roads, bridges, as opposed to infrastructure and keeping these general. So it really is a policy decision at that point, how you want to frame these. Do you want to frame it for the building of 2 new fire stations?
I'm just giving you a suggestion.
Sure.
I'm
You
not
can, you
telling
could
how to
say,
do it.
you could be as specific as to build 2 new fire stations, buy a ladder aerial and hire 5 firefighters. Or you could just say 4 fire department needs. So really that is the policy decision. And I think that's what the mayor's requesting feedback on.
Yes,
Councilor Latino.
thank you. So the ballot initiative will take care of all the financial problems. Is that what we're saying?
No, it's not gonna take care of all of the financial problems, but these were drafted based off of feedback from the community and how they want to see their funds specifically spent. So right now, the city just has an overall 3% that comes in. And then we sit down and we decide how that money is spent. So for example, this year, next year, is it going to be important to have youth programs, sports, parks, kiddie rides, or is it going to be important to have firemen and police officers? And those are decisions that we are all going to have to make for 2028's budget with the projected amount left in the fund balance. So this isn't made to save the budget in any way. This is to continue the services that have been being provided to our community, expand services, and have specific designated funds in which those services are billed to.
What about freezing salaries?
So I have frozen, Counselor Latino, pretty much every single position that has come across my desk, over 40 positions in the last year and a half, where we have frozen and not hired. 2 days ago, I froze a fire captain position. So all departments are being affected by it. Even public safety departments are being affected by it
So how
now.
about the total employee base? Are we freezing salaries there?
Completely overall throughout the entire city. Those
Nobody-
40 positions make up deputy directors, general service employees, police officers. I just froze a deputy chief position. It's overall through all departments in the city,
That's line and staff.
everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Mayor Graham, what happens, like, because again, this is, we can put these on the ballot, but again, it's up to the people essentially. So like, if any of this or some of it or all of it doesn't fly, then I know that we're getting ready to have the budget conversations tomorrow. So are these some of the asks that these particular departments are going to be talking about in the upcoming conversations over the next 2 weeks? And I'm just curious, like, what their proposals are going to be, should this not happen? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so like I stated a few minutes ago, if something doesn't change, if we don't have another COVID where you have all of this federal stimulus being dumped into our community, the city receiving $36 million in ARPA funds and distributing it to the community, to see economic vitality within our community and sales tax grow for 2028's budget, you are going to have to cut $10 million in expenses. That's going to have to be through people and it's going to have to be through services because you have no money to dip into like you do in 26 and 27 and have in the previous years. So this is one solution that's being proposed. I'm happy to hear other solutions from city council on other cuts that we can be making, but I have cut everything that I can possibly cut. I have within my power, right, as the executive branch. So I have cut the budgets, I have cut staff, I have cut contingencies, I have cut people, I have gone to the unions and asked for 0% wage increases for 2026 or 2027, excuse me, budget. I have done what I can within my power. Come 2028, we're going to have a very hard conversation if something doesn't change.
So what I'm curious about is, I attended the meeting and I'm gonna be transparent, I was a little late, and some of the information that was provided to some of the folks who attended the town hall was a number that said that, the budget as it's currently created is for a budget that is set when, like, a flatline budget, like we don't have any new money or any new revenues coming in. But then it was pointed out that at this point, we're up close to 5%. So what if we keep going to that trend and this doesn't pass? And how would we look to utilize let's say it keeps moving in that direction to be able to help the budget?
Sure. So what you have to remember, Councilwoman, is you're 10 million in the hole. So that's, our budget is based flat. Even at a 5% increase, that I don't believe, or the finance department doesn't believe, is due to additional spending in our community. It has to do with large payments being made from some of our businesses, or payments that were never collected in previous years that were going out and auditing paying. But even if the city continued and our sales tax increase was at 10%, you're taking 10% of $10 million in the hole. So regardless, unless you can make up $10 million in the next 6 months, you're still only gonna have that $1 million to budget into for 2028. It would be a different story if we didn't have a $10 million budget deficit already. But the 5% increase, that's not even gonna touch the $10 million that we're already in the hole. So we're just looking to not go into the hole any further for 2027.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question, so please, Counselor Gomez.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious in reference to some of the articles I've been reading about municipalities that they suffer from a lack of creativity and imagination. And I think it would help you guys if, or you have plans for revenue generation through things like more festivals, more projects with aviation for revenue generation. What plans do you have to do that, as opposed to, and I appreciate the fact that you're trying to really cut to the bone on this. I got it and I appreciate it, but are you doing anything with ideas for revenue generation?
Yeah, we're doing lots of things with revenue generation. In fact, my director of public works just brought a plan that was creative and not what we've always done, by using the half-cent sales tax to be able to put infrastructure in to bring more businesses. Some of the highest sales taxpayers within our community are two of the businesses that were mentioned in this work session before I came up here. Starbucks, Chipotle, McDonald's, all of those fast food restaurants are actually large sales tax generators within our community. So that's one thing we're doing to be creative. We brought forward the criteria change to allow for us to spend money, which is going to help bring businesses to our community. You're very well aware that we are working on an air mechanics training program at the college, with the college, out at the airport. So we've done lots of things to try to increase revenue. We've worked on a festival project with Councilor Boston and President Aliff for downtown festivals to bring more people in, including putting a new stage on the Riverwalk to bring more music downtown. But my job is to present a budget to you that is balanced and well thought, and has the fat trimmed off of it. And for the last 3 years, I've been working very hard in order to bring that to City Council. Unfortunately, our sales tax revenues have just not been keeping up with the times. When I first,
What do you think the reason is for that?
well, I think a lot has to do with the money that came in previously, right? When COVID was happening and all these additional funds, the city was taking in money hand over fist. Our sales tax revenues had never been so high. At one point, we had $42 million in additional funds that went to then pave roads. People in our community don't have that money. They're not spending because they don't have that additional federal stimulus money coming. So things are starting to plateau now. Well, in the meantime, we've seen cost of goods go up. We've seen large wage increases for our employees to try to get within that 85%, not large, but just to be fair for our employees and to match what other communities have gotten. But I mean, you were a business owner, and I'm sure that you know that there was years when things were good and there's years when things are bad. I don't think that this is a Pueblo problem. I don't think it's a Colorado problem. I think this is all over the US. And as you talked about what different municipalities are doing and how they're being creative, we've been trying to do that. And we've been bringing proposals to City Council in order to create more revenue coming into our city. We've been out auditing businesses who have not paid. We hold business licenses. If you do not pay, we are going after the hotels and making sure that they are paying their sales tax in the way that they're supposed to be paying it per their stays. We've done a lot to try to recoup costs into the city to make our budget whole.
Incentive wise, what are you doing?
In which way?
If you have somebody that's not paying, and you know this, you have businesses.
Yeah.
And not every business, I was in business for quite a while, 2 businesses have been pretty good. And sometimes they'll slow walk a month. It happens.
Yeah.
I mean, you know the business and you get an
Yeah.
injection of funds. But are there any incentives we have for business instead of more regulations, instead of what is out there for the average business person to go out and try to say, look, we had a gentleman today just sat in front of us, is looking for $2 or $3 million.
Yeah.
Okay. What things are there for them at the city level that you can provide to them? What incentives?
Well, we changed the criteria on the half-cent sales tax that now allows for city council to grant incentive packages for these businesses. For new developers, we might help with land acquisition. We might help with waiving tap fees for new businesses to come into our community. So there's a bunch of different things. We'll connect you to the Urban Renewal Authority. You could get a reimbursement agreement like Mr. Martinez talked about. There's lots of things that we're working on.
Thank you.
It looks like there's 2 more counselors who have a question. We're just a little bit over time. So I will allow Counselor Dante and Counselor Hernandez 2 minutes each to pose your question and respond. We're not too far. So Counselor Dante, please, you have 2 minutes and then I'll move over to Hernandez.
Thank you. I'm in agreement with President Aliff on this first question. And this is just a suggestion. I really think that we should take the word city out of there and just make it a fire one. Especially since the police has their own, I think the fire should have their own and it would be less confusing to people. On the second one, the roads. Instead of putting roads and infrastructure, put road infrastructure. That way they don't get confused what infrastructure you're talking about. You're just talking about road infrastructure.
Well, we're not just talking about road infrastructure, though. I'm talking about bridge work, ADA ramps. So if we were just to tie it to road infrastructure, I would think that that would be asphalt, mill and overlay. I think that would be too specific for total infrastructure.
Because when I think of roads and infrastructure, I do think of bridges and
Yeah.
the other things.
I don't
So-
think that we could use the money though if it just specifically said road infrastructure, because a bridge I don't think qualifies the same way that a road does.
Then I would kind of get creative and try to find some other wording.
Sure.
And then non-departmental funding, nonprofit. I noticed that most of this is for contractual, is that correct?
Yeah, so anybody, when I refer to non-departmental, they have a contractual agreement with the city.
So if you put contractual instead of non-departmental, do you think that would be better wording?
In our budgets, how we reference these contractual agreements is non-departmental. We could add contractual, non-departmental to
Okay.
it. But again, I think that that would limit city council's ability in the future if you ever wanted to provide funding like the city did before for nonprofits without entering into a contractual agreement.
Just suggestions.
Sure.
And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Counselor Hernandez, I'll go ahead and recognize you for about the next 2
Thank you, Madam Chair.
minutes.
I'm just looking at the budget, this wonderful
Okay, I
thing.
got it. I knew you were gonna bring it.
B1.
Okay.
So, and I know that this is not meant as a criticism of anybody, because we've had 2 mayors in the last 4 years, yourself and Mayor Gradishar. But the thing that I noticed in the actuals for 23 and 24 is a $9 million and then a $8 million deficit spending. Am I right on that? Oh, no, close. 6 million, 9 and 6.
Are you looking at the 2023 and
23
2024?
and 24 actuals, yes,
So 9.3 and 5.5?
correct.
Yeah.
So obviously that's not your responsibility.
Well, it kind of is, right? So when you're looking at what that deficit is and how it fluctuates, a lot of that has to do with positions.
Correct.
And those positions have to be due within the police department. So
Correct.
as you see that number change,
So yeah, so then the next year, I'm talking about the actual expenditures. 127,105,127,423,000. And then for your first budget, it went down to 120 million. So it went down $7 million, but a lot of the damage already been done to the,
that, yeah, 2025's estimate,
no, we don't have the true figures on that yet, do we?
not yet. 2025's estimated, and that difference is probably because of the nonprofit funding. So in 2025, we cut, so previously, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but previously, all nonprofits within the city would be able to send a request to the mayor's office and
Yeah.
ask for
Before CSAC.
before CSAC. So that went on from 2019 through 2024. In 2025, I eliminated that.
Right.
And made it go through CSAC. So you'll see a huge reduction in the expenditures.
Okay.
Just because we cut out nonprofit funding 100%.
Okay, so, and then the final item, if you go back up to personnel costs for 23, these are 23 and 24. Actuals are 71,800,000 and then 78 million for 2024. And then 2025, they jumped up to 85 million. And then this year's adopted budget jumped up to almost 100 million.
Sure.
So obviously there's a reason for it. I know I've spoken to before that there
We'll give
were.
one more minute on this.
There were 100 new employees added. And with the 100 new employees comes the expenses for 100 new employees.
Yes. Yeah, but also, so if you actually took your budget and looked at 2023's actuals compared to 2023's projected,
Mhm.
you'll see just as large of a gap.
Right.
So the 2023 actuals, 2024 actuals are at the end of the year when we know that those positions aren't being filled, right? So that number could have looked like it was closer to 90.
Right.
But the open positions, when it hits the actual, is always much less than what we actually spent, which changes the
proposed.
number.
Right.
Yes, which changes the number in the bottom that you were talking about.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
You have learned something from me.
Wonderful. This is a nice segue. As we move into the next item on the council's agenda this evening, Mayor Graham would like to address the council surrounding the upcoming budget calendar, and she'll give us an introduction on how that process is headed up. So Councilor Hernandez, thanks for kicking that off. But we'll just kind of keep that in mind. So Mayor Graham, once you're ready, you're unloaded. We'll recognize you for 20 minutes for
Thank
your
you, Chair.
presentation.
So you and I had briefly spoke a couple weeks ago about just what the budget process is and how it looks. And I know we have some new members to city council, so I kind of wanted to just start off and present the timeline for you and present what has happened thus far, what's going to happen, get some feedback from council on if they want to see specific departments come before you and what those specifics you might be inquiring about. So this is the 2027 budget timeline. Physically responsible budget with minimal impact quality of life services. And due to the sustained decline in tax revenue, we are implementing further physical reduction, and the goal is to maintain all core functions of the city department. So this first page is information that I pulled straight out of the charter. So it is my job to prepare the budget annually and submit it to city council and be responsible for executing this budget after it's adopted. The submission to the city council is due no later than the first regular meeting in October of each year. And this will be October 5th, as you'll see in the calendar later. In our budget, we owe you an estimate of all the revenue cash receipts, general fund cash surplus, that's gonna be the money going into the reserves. An estimate of all of our expenditures. We have to tell you about the debt service requirements. And it's our job to bring a balanced budget, to the city council to approve. That does not mean that our revenues are going to balance our expenditures. That means I am going to have to come to you and say that we have to take money out of the reserves as we do every single year. Part of this budget process that we are working towards is also includes the capital budget, which you can find in your budget books. It's one of the last pages. Details 5 years worth of capital outlay and what's approved through what funding source. Where does I spelled capital wrong. Okay. Where does the capital budget come from? So it comes from several different sources. So our lottery funds, which are also labeled CTE, general fund dollars, public safety sales tax dollars, our E911 dollars, our enterprise funds, our state funds that are faster funds or HUTF funds, which is that $2.5 million that we get from the states. And then I highlighted this very specific sentence where it talks about capital improvements, our investment accounts, where that money comes and how that money can be spent. So you can see right here out of the charter, it says that the city council may transfer the income from the investment monies in the sales and use tax capital improvement fund to capital improvements created under section 7-16. That sentence allows for city council to transfer the interest from the half-cent sales tax fund to the capital improvement fund, and then allows the city to do capital improvements every single year. We have been doing this since 2007 is the farthest back we could, at least since 2007. So what is involved in the capital improvement plan? That might be land improvements, building improvements, infrastructure, roads, wastewater, stormwater, traffic signals, machinery and equipment over 2,500, software and artwork, and historical treasures. The budget timeline, so you all received this several weeks ago about how the timeline is going to lay out from now until October. You can see we've had several meetings with the finance department. They put out information to all of our different directors and departments on how they are to submit and get the information into OpenGov, back to my office, back to finance, so we can review. They were required to have all of their information submitted by July 6th, as you can see. July 20th through the 31st, I'm going to meet with all of the different directors of each department. You have all been invited through calendar invites, and I think Alyssa has also reached out for you that want to participate. There is also a specific budget calendar that you receive for which departments will be coming at what time of day, and that all starts tomorrow. After we review and talk to each of the departments and the budget team, we start to put the budget together. The budget is 8,000 line items that we comb through. From this point now through September, we are also going to be meeting with the departments and hearing about their capital needs. We will have to take our capital proposed improvement plan to planning and zoning in front of their board. That's a requirement in the charter, and Danny usually does that. On October 5th will be the first time per the charter that the city council receives the full proposed budget from the mayor. You'll have a couple weeks to review, ask questions, meet. On October 19th, we'll have a budget work session that is scheduled. If there needs to be additional budget work sessions, we have done that back-to-back nights that week or the following week if there's a lot of conversations. Or if city council wants to see additional information through directors. On October 26th, the formal public hearing on the 2027 budget is going to be on the city council agenda. And the final city council budget work session will be on November 2nd. The first reading will be on November 9th, with the final reading being on November 23rd, in which at that time the budget does have to be passed. So city council has been privileged to all of this information thus far. You've received calendar invites to come and meet with the directors of the departments over the next few days with me if you would like to do. And then I told Councilwoman Ruiz Gomez if council would like specific departments to come in front of city council to have questions asked. The question, I've heard it from a couple different counselors, is why didn't we do that last year? And the reason was because they didn't have, I didn't let them ask for anything in addition last year. We had a 15% reduction overall in operations and there were no new positions. So they did not come in front of city council to present their budgets because there was nothing to present, because there was no asks that were being entertained. The same direction has been given this year. There will be no new employees that are being requested by directors. Not all departments are going to take operational costs because quite frankly, the departments like the clerk's office that has 3 employees or purchasing, they already cut all of their fat last year with their 15% and they really don't have anything else to cut. But for the larger departments, we have given specific instructions on reductions in operating, in part-time employees, and overall spending. So happy to take any questions or any direction from city council.
Thank you, Mayor Graham. I will begin to ask counselors to field questions. It looks like I have a couple lights up. We'll begin with Counselor Dante. We'll go with Counselor Hernandez, thank you. And then Counselor Boston, and then we'll move forward from there.
Thank you, Madam
You
Chair.
don't have anything, Counselor Dante? Okay.
Thank you,
Counselor
Madam Chair.
Hernandez, please.
Just for my information, what type of input at these meetings does a counselor get to have?
So I've only done this one other time, and it was last year, and I only had one council person show up to one of the meetings. So I can't really tell you how they're gonna play out, so it's gonna be a learning experience for both of us. I would hope that city council could be there so that they could see the in-depth conversations that we have. Because you don't really get to see these conversations here at city council meetings, right? I mean, when I say we go line item by line item, we take their last year budget, we take kind of halfway throughout the year, and we talk about, well, you said, hey, you needed X amount of dollars for travel and for training. How come you've only used a portion? How come you're not halfway through your budget? What does that look like? And do we think that there could be more reductions for 2027's budget? So I will afford those same kinds of
So we can ask those questions as well?
As well. I think it would be very beneficial to city council to hear and participate in the same fashion that I would.
So I need to bring my book.
Bring your book and then we'll provide you with the documents that the directors bring. And so you can see firsthand what they're requesting previously. So like in 2025's budget, I guess that would have been my first budget. We would have other forms where directors might be coming in asking for merit increases or reclassification for their employees, or additional employees. So HR would go over job descriptions or how much that might cost the city and how we are going to take those to city council. We haven't had those for the last 2 years because I haven't approved any merit increases or additional employees.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Sure.
Counselor Boston, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This isn't directly exactly related to the budget timeline, but are we gonna consider another round of the VSO for voluntary separations?
We're gonna put out a second round for later in the year.
Thank you.
Counselor Gomez?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, how can we have budget meetings of the mayor without violating the open meetings law? How does that work?
So that is why you were all contacted individually. If there's going to be more than three of you there, the meetings were to be posted. That's why we asked for if you were going to attend and what meetings you were going to attend, because I've been out of the office for half of the day, but I think Councilwoman Dante is the only one who has responded to all of the calendar invites. And so then we were coordinating with other counselors who might have found certain departments that they wanted to go to. So if there is more than three of you, we will have to move that and then post, or we'll have to ask one of you to step out and come back for the next meeting. I'm not sure for everybody else which meetings that you're gonna attend, but Councilwoman Dante is the only one who signed up for all of the meetings at
And
this
in those
point.
budget meetings, did the counselor have motions? Can she do votes? How does that process work?
Well, so there's no votes or motions. You can ask the director who's presenting the budget. So each hour, each 45 minutes is taken up by a different department. They come in, Director of Finance is there, our budget analyst is there, HR is there, I'm there. And we pretty much hear their presentation first, and then we start asking questions.
Well, everything I'm reading says the creation of the budget is solely your responsibility
100%.
and that of the executive branch. So I don't know how us participating in your budget talks.
Yeah,
It makes any sense to me. It's the blurring of, that's why they have a thing called the separation of powers. You ever hear of it? That's why the blurring of the lines continue. We need to understand and respect each one of our tracks. We're the legislative branch, you're the executive branch. And for us to come over here and come into your lane is inappropriate.
that may be true, that it is inappropriate because it is the mayor's budget. But I'm extending an olive branch to city council and allowing you to be part of the process. So come November, when I have to sit up here and say, I told you so, or you should have come to the budget meetings, or you should have had input, except for on the second reading, where several city councilors may or may not try to amend or not in fact pass the budget. At least by this time, you will have learned something, and you will have got to partake in the discussions.
With all due
It's the
respect,
it's the city's budget, right? So I might present it to you, Counselor Gomez, but at the end of the day, you have to pass it. And so I would much rather work together with the city council and the staff and the mayor to find a budget that makes sense for everybody. So when we get to November, we don't have to have this battle. That's why I've invited
I
you to.
appreciate what
pick.
you're saying. With all due respect, we end up getting sometimes when things don't go well with the blame of it. I'm tired of hearing things back. Well, it's the city council gave us the funds. That excuse has been used way too many times. And that's my fear. I think we need to stay separate and stay within our lanes. Blurring this creates a problem for us as the blame.
Sure.
When things go bad, you blame us.
I don't want to blame you. The
Yeah.
fact is that I can't spend $1 without city council's approval. So at least if you're gonna be approving something moving forward, this is your chance to come in and have those discussions and make the recommendations to me. So we can sit down and have a conversation on a budget you feel like you can pass in November. That's all that it's intended to do, is to engage city council in the budget process, since you will be passing the
I
budget.
appreciate it, but that's not our role.
Mayor Graham, thank you. I will tell you that I've been in touch with Alyssa today and let her know that I've been
Great.
trying to finagle my schedule around to do what I can. And us counselors have been organizing and signed up.
Okay.
We have, some counselors have signed up. So if you could kindly remind us, what does your staff need to post in open meetings? Because we have,
So if you have anybody signed up for tomorrow,
Okay.
3 people, we're gonna have to change.
okay,
If you have, it's 24 hours posting, so if you can get me that tonight, we can post it for Wednesday is the majority of the budget meetings, and I can post that as long as
Okay.
you're going to be there.
perfect. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
been working on that. So right now, counselors, this is still floating around. And so if anybody else would like to sign up, so I don't, for tomorrow, I think, unless we want to do the switch and bait, or if there's no other buddy signed up, that's fine. But tomorrow we just kind of have to play it by ear. But I think at least you'll know for Wednesday if we're, what our needs are around that.
If
Ms.
I could
Sykes?
just chime in for a moment. If there's going to be 3 or more of you there, it's going to be posted as pursuant to the open meetings law. But that doesn't mean that it's a city council meeting. So it's not going to be treated as a meeting. City council isn't going to run it. It is still the mayor's process. So it really is just an informational
Mhm.
opportunity for city council to go and become informed about the budget, how it works, what the line items are, so that you are educated and informed when you have to vote on the budget overall. So I just want to clarify that, that you're not going to be voting on anything. You're not going to be really having input other than if you have concerns, then you can, just like on any legislative matter, if you have concerns about it, you can bring those concerns to the mayor, talk about it, so that when you're up here legislating, you are informed and can make informed decisions.
Okay, perfect. Counselor Dante, did you have something on this?
No, I was just going to.
Oh, okay. So counselors,
One more thing. When we do that, are we violating the spirit when you start asking for, well, we need a consensus or we need a direction? And in my mind, that's still kind of a vote, but I think we violate that when we ask for our direction or our consensus or wave or raising of the hands. That's a violation.
That's not what we really do in the budget meetings. It's just an opportunity for the, oh, what are you talking about?
We have all these meetings behind closed doors. There's so many things that we've done behind closed doors that should be in public, and I'll start bringing those forward. But I'm just saying, I'm very leery of every time they ask me for a direction and we have some kind of vote going on and the public is not aware of it. That's inappropriate.
Thank you. That's not what we'll be doing. It will be informational only.
and I think this is a yes and process. Yes, those of us on the council who are wishing to take part in the conversations tomorrow for our own information and be involved. It's about being involved in the process, and we are trying to work that out so we're not violating any type of laws, and they clarified how that could look. But it's a yes and so I think not only are we going, or whoever would like to participate in this can, but we also, as Mayor Grant had mentioned, and I talked to her about that. In your stuff today, you received a copy, and this is a good resource. It's a list of all of the departments that will be looking at budgets. So I would ask each one, if you don't have your copy, I have some extra copies printed because I was not aware we were going to have this. So thank you, Katie. To look at this and let's start deciding which of these departments do we would want to have Mayor Graham's support being placed on our work sessions
And
moving forward.
kind of what you're looking for them to present, because I had stated that like previously they would come and present additional asks or additional employees. So they just need to know what you would like to see in within their budget.
Sounds good. I know one of the things that there were, one of the requests that's come up from some of the counselors and some from the public, and Mr. Nunn and Mayor Graham, if you can maybe start working on this for us, is if we can somehow get a report of the projects that were wrapped up. We've talked about this before in previous council meetings, and y'all have done a great job educating us on how that looks, of projects that have been wrapped up and have money leftovers that are there, so that we can get an idea where we're at with that. That's one of the things that we would like to see. And if there's anything else, counselors, that you would like moving forward, I am going to just say, now's your chance to let me know so that we can put these requests to the mayor to get these presentations on our work schedules. Come, I would say August, first meeting in August. Does that sound?
Yeah, the calendar's pretty open, so we can accommodate however many or whoever you guys would like. I just need to allow them time to prepare what you're requesting.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions? All right. Okay, so seeing none, we will move forward with the council's agenda. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion to move into executive session.
Madam Chair, I make the motion that we move into an executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations and or instructing negotiators under CRS section 24-6-402, parent 4, parent E, parent I. And the following additional details are provided for identification purposes, potential economic development project in the St. Charles Industrial Park and land sale and acquisition at Northern and Ormond.
Did anybody else get a chance to read that except Mr. Boston?
You want to?
No, I'm just saying, I'm just wondering what.
I read it.
Has to go around the rabbi.
I will entertain that for next time. Thank you, Counselor Gomez.
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor, to move into executive session?
Aye.
Thank you. The council will now move into executive session. The time is now 8:13 PM on Monday, July 20th, 2026. And I now adjourn this work session for Pueblo City Council.